On my clock, so we'll get started. This is Samantha Storms from BLM's External Affairs at the National Interagency Fire Center. And we just want to thank you for joining us this morning. It looks like we have nearly 300 people on the line, which is awesome. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk about public information and wildland fire. So today we're going to discuss the following: wildland fire response during COVID-19, season themes, the PIO Bulletin Board, social media, the FireNet migration, InciWeb best practices, and IROC reporting. We'll be taking questions at the end of today's webinar, and I'm just going to kick it off to Jessica Gardetto for our COVID-19 update.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Again, my name is Jessica Gardetto, and I'm the External Affairs Chief here at NIFC for BLM's National Fire and Aviation Office. I'm just going to cover PIO messaging during COVID-19, and of course, at the end, as Sam mentioned, let us know if you have any questions. We know that PIO work is going to be a different game during COVID-19. As I'm sure you're all aware, the public and elected officials are keenly interested in how we're going to handle fire suppression during the pandemic. They've already experienced some of this in the Southwest with the incidents they have going on there now. So knowing the GACs and specific forests and districts have or are developing their own specific PIO guidance and helpful resources, I'm not going to cover detailed PIO tactics because, of course, you already have those resources. So we've developed a set of broad interagency COVID-19 messages that PIOs can tailor to their specific forests, districts, and incidents, much like our season themes. Of course, these talking points are posted to the COVID section of the PIO Bulletin Board, and then we're going to update these as the situation changes because, as we all know, this is a very fluid situation that is changing by the day or by the week. The current administration is also keenly aware of our messaging, as many of you have likely experienced. DOI and USDA continue to request that all COVID-19 related media inquiries be cleared through DOI and USDA communications, which could get tricky during busy incidents, especially if you have an experience where you have an incident within an incident, like numerous fire personnel contracting COVID while on a fire assignment, and those other sorts of tricky, intense, high workload situations. So at this point, we suggest working closely with the local public affairs office during fire assignments to ensure that you stay on message, that you follow protocols, etc. So we've also been gathering helpful COVID PIO materials from the GACs, from IMTs, and from all sorts of PIO resources. So if you have materials that you think would be helpful, of course, we would love to post them. They're all posted on that PIO COVID specific page. And of course, feel free to send them to me or anyone in External Affairs, and we'll get them posted to that COVID PIO page. We've also developed some agency-specific prevention messages that we can share if any of you are interested. And then, of course, please let us know if you have any questions or contributions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Miss-Libby. I'm detailed into the NIFC BLM External Affairs shop this summer. My normal job is I work for Idaho BLM State Office as a Fire Mitigation Education Specialist. So today, I'm going to take a couple moments and I'm going to talk about the National Fire Season themes for this year. These season themes are interagency. They're worked on over the winter time, highlighting some important topics to be discussed and worked through for the season. Like I said, it's a high-level view, so when you're looking at these season themes, remember that it's at a 50,000-foot level. This year, they drilled it down. We drilled it down to vegetation management treatments, international modes, like we went to Australia, budget, fire-related technology, and also, as always, firefighter and public safety. So we've highlighted some high-level topics this year, but these are something that are very easily used that could be taken down to that local level. For instance, one of the big things this year is asking the public to help prevent wildfires. So that overarching season theme about the public wants to play a valuable role, you can take that down to your local level, talking to constituents or the public, or even putting news releases out and adding a prevention message. One of them is asking people to take responsibility on helping with preventing wildfires and being part of that overarching team. This year, for sure, we want to lessen that exposure to firefighters and to first responders. So take that overarching larger theme and, like I said, bring that down to the local level that was going to pertain to your area. And that's what we kind of want you guys to utilize these season themes as well. They can be used in your normal duties, like I said, or as local PIOs. Where are these season themes? They're on the fabulous PIO Bulletin Board. As you can see on the screen, the season themes, just click on them. We'll be adding some videos and things later on, but go ahead and utilize those season themes for any of the aspects of your work and your fire assignments. If you have any questions, like I said, we'll be talking about those and asking those at the end. Thank you very much. And next, we're going to head over to talk to Candy Stevenson about the PIO Bulletin Board.
Hi, Candy Stevenson, Fire Communication and Education Specialist for the National Park Service. I'm going to cover updates for the PIO Bulletin Board on the NIFC website. So if you're not familiar with the PIO Bulletin Board, it's a great place to start when you're trying to find resources and information helpful to PIOs. If you can't find what you're looking for here or you have any updates, please be sure to contact one of us and let us know. The PIO Bulletin Board is found by clicking on the Fire Information tab at the top of the NIFC page and clicking the PIO Bulletin Board link at the left column. Some new content you'll most likely be using this season, as mentioned earlier, is the COVID-19 information. Just click on the left side. We'll bring you a plethora of information that PIOs need to know during incident response, just to keep yourself and staff healthy, safe and healthy this season. Many CDC links are provided here, as well as references and best practices on how to run a virtual PIO operations. Familiarize yourself with these resources and let us know if you have something to add. New links and guidance will be updated frequently, so be sure to check back here for the latest. The Information Officer's Corner is another great place to keep checking through the season for updates. And here you'll find agency-specific information in the 2020 season themes. Be sure to check your agency-specific information page regularly for updates. The Information Officer's Corner is also where you'll find incident resources like the PIO Incident Organizer under the heading Background Material. Another new resource this year is under the Social Media heading. The NWCG Information Officer Subcommittee Social Media Guidance and Best Practices document provides a comprehensive list of policy, regulations, and best practices regarding social media use on incidents. It's meant to be used by PIOs, but can also be given to other responders as a tool for social media best practices. It's a great source of information for the new PIO or for policy reference for the seasoned PIO. There are a few items under the agency updates link I'd like to mention. FWS updates are coming soon. We welcome any feedback, suggestions, and needs you might have for that site. For the National Park Service updates include PIO resource checklist, providing comprehensive list of reminders for what to do when bringing in a new PIO. And there's also a virtual PIO checklist that could be very useful this year. These checklists could be easily modified and used by other agencies, so take a look if you think this is something you could use. Those are the latest updates for this year, but if you're new to the site, please take a look through all the headings and become familiar with all the resources available. And now I'll turn it over to Sam and Jen for social media.
Once again, this is Samantha Storms. This is a nice segue from Candy's mention of the new social media resources on the PIO Bulletin Board. I just want to highlight the fact that all NIFC agencies utilize social media, not only to engage employees, partners, congressionals, and community members, but our goal is really to raise awareness about wildland fire and all hazard response. Social media may be a little bit different than your state, forest, local, or incident social media strategies because we are located at the National Interagency Fire Center and we work with a pretty big group of wildland fire agencies. Hopefully most of you know this, but just in case, NIFC does represent the Bureau of Land Management, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Park Service, the U.S. Forest Service, the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, the National Business Center, the U.S. Fire Administration, and National Association of State Foresters. All of these agencies have individual social media accounts, but our goal really is to come together to collaborate on campaigns, share interagency work, and provide the best fire information possible. We recently launched a new National Interagency Fire Center Facebook and Twitter page, and we hope that you all will go through that list of agencies I mentioned, but also go to those new pages and give us a like and a follow, and we'll do the same for you. You can find everyone on Facebook and Twitter, and we hope that you take advantage this coming year to tag us in content from the field so we can help share, but also please utilize our growing interagency Flickr and YouTube accounts for your photo and video needs. We're always looking for submissions from the field, so if any of you have a good collection of photos or videos, we are definitely open to adding to our collection. Our goal really is to set the standard for wildland fire information sharing and provide resources for you as information officers. And next I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and she's going to share some examples and ways that we can, that you all can engage with us.
Yeah, I'm Jen Smith. I'm a public affairs specialist that works for BLM Fire and Aviation at NIFC. We want you to engage with us during Fire Year 2020. It's a team effort to raise awareness about wildland fires and other all-hazard incidents to the public. Demonstrate how the wildland fire community supports firefighting efforts and other natural disasters, and we can highlight interagency coordination. Coordinate the use of consistent hashtags for wildland fire-related social media content. The next few slides are going to be examples of what we do here. And I am going to paste the hashtags that we commonly use. It's not worth it. The first one, we've got, here's some posts from the U.S. Forest Service and the BLM Fire and Aviation program. Note the firefighting resources and fire job hashtags. These examples show field management by the National Park Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And then, we're starting to gear up for NIFC's 50th anniversary, and here's a post regarding that. And then we also have Bureau of Indian Affairs posting about managing wildland fire. So we have many upcoming campaigns. We have Fire Year 2020. We're currently transitioning from Ready for Wildfire to Fire Year 2020 as we move into the Western fire season and more information becomes readily available. We'll use this hashtag with all information pertaining to wildland fire. We also have the Week of Remembrance coming up. The Wildland Firefighter Week of Remembrance is scheduled for June 30th to July 6th. This week is dedicated to all those who have fallen in the line of duty and is intended to serve as an opportunity to renew our commitment to the health, wellness, and safety of the wildland firefighters. If you'd like to be involved and share the Week of Remembrance social media content, please contact me or Kathy Comat with the National Park Service. And last, we'll be highlighting NIFC's 50th anniversary. That's the week of July 25th. The post will highlight NIFC's history, mission, and how interagency collaboration creates a support center that establishes policy, exchanges, information, and trains wildland fire personnel. If you have any questions regarding NIFC social media, please feel free to contact Sam or me. And up next is Kate O'Hara, talk about FireNet.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name again is Katie O'Hara. I am the Partnership Program Lead with the Office of Wildland Fire with Department of Interior. And we're going to do a quick update this morning on FireNet. So some of the quick things I'm going to cover here is an update on the migration, a little bit about named accounts versus guest accounts, some browser recommendations and setup, as well as information on account setup and new features, some exciting things coming for the PIO shop. So first off, I want to cover the migration from the Google platform over to Microsoft Office 365 was completed on April 20th. FireNet continues to be our wildland fire community tool of choice. It's recommended by NMAC. It's our best option for a secure environment that allows us to collaborate in the interagency environment with state and local partners. It's also our primary electronic documentation storage tool at this point in time, and like I said, secure environments. So one of the biggest things that we have been getting questions about within the FireNet leadership team this year is accounts and the delay in getting accounts and how you get an account and what is a guest account. As many of you know, if you have submitted a request for a new account, there's a delay in getting those accounts created. As of yesterday morning, I checked, there's over 700 new account requests in the queue. And our staff of only about 3 or 4 folks, it's taking a little bit of time to get those filled and figure out where those people need to go in the priority to get accounts created. One of the things that was identified while doing this is a list, and you'll see it on the right-hand side of your screen there, of the folks who really need to have those named accounts, those accounts that end in the firenet.gov. PIOs, hopefully all of you out there on this call today, are folks that are able to get the firenet.gov accounts. With that being said, I highly encourage you that if you do not have an account already, to go ahead and start the process, submit your information. If you're not already a federal government employee, to take the online training for security training and get your information submitted up. One of the key points about PIOs having access to the firenet.gov or named accounts is the ability to use the shared inbox. So similar to years past, you will have the fire name at firenet.gov and that ability to communicate with the public, receiving and sending information from that official fire email address. So incident setup, one of the other key items is what happens when you show up on a fire or you get that resource order for a new fire. The FireNet team is prepared to help either the ITSS, the PIO, or the plan section chief initiate that fire setup on FireNet and get you up and running in the team's environment and get you connected. Like I mentioned, the shared inbox, that's going to be delegated specifically to your team lead PIO, and additional inboxes can be created for other functional areas, whether it's plan section or your liaison officer. One of the other new tools that's coming out this year is a conference call line. Conference call line will be assigned to your plan section chief, and as they are able to create new meetings, set up meetings, that conference call line will be automatically assigned to those meetings that they create in the team's environment. And then I think one of the things that I'm personally most excited about is the voice trial numbers that are being tested this year. This is an additional license option that we are trying out within the FireNet 365 environment. So we have basically the first 25 type 1 and type 2 incidents across the country will have an opportunity to try the FireNet 365 voice option. So very similar to Google Voice, they will be assigned a number. They can have that number ring out to a variety of different cell phones. It rings on your computer. So very similar functionality. We're just testing the option right now, and we will have feedback hopefully coming up here soon. FireNet support. First off, there is a variety of learning series, webinars, and videos that are available on YouTube already. We've also got several in the queue that will be coming up. So if you are absolutely brand new to FireNet, there is a YouTube video that is already posted and accessible on the FireNet website called Applications and Access. And it's a great 45-minute webinar that walks you step by step through how to request account, how the incident-specific accounts work, and what the next steps are as you're working in a team environment. Upcoming webinars include incident account setup. So if you are a lead or a deputy on a team, or you're in a training environment and you would like to learn more about setting up specifically for an incident, if you work in a dispatch center, there's also additional webinars coming out about that. And then soon we hope to release a couple of specific short videos covering the options for the voice and conference call lines, as well as how to transition FireNet accounts from team to team or from an IMT back to a local unit. And as always, the FireNet web admin team is available for questions with fire season kicking off here. They are online and working 24/7, so they are available to answer your questions, take phone calls, and hopefully get you up and running before you get your first fire of the year. And with that, I will go ahead and transition to Stanton Floria with the Forest Service and covering InciWeb.
Thanks, Katie. InciWeb, as you all know, has been around about 15 years, and it's an increasingly reliable tool for conveying accurate, timely information on incidents. I'm sorry. I've introduced myself a little bit more. Stanton Floria. I'm with U.S. Forest Service on the external affairs staff here at NIFC. I've only been here a couple months, so still getting used to things, and appreciate the opportunity on the webinar here. With the current situation, everybody should keep in mind that InciWeb is especially well suited for being done remotely in the current situation that we're in. So the last few years, Christine Schuldeis has done a tremendous job overseeing InciWeb, including the modernization to the map-based version of InciWeb about 3 years ago. And something to take note of is Christine is on a detail currently. She'll be back toward the end of September, and we do have a 120-day detailer in, Crystal Thompson from the Mendocino National Forest. So she'll be here for 120 days working behind Christine on InciWeb and a number of other things. So as most of you know, InciWeb is a place you can post information about any significant fires. You can also use InciWeb for prescribed fires, of course. Just some of our recent analytics, 34 million people visited InciWeb in 2018, pretty impressive. There is the mobile-enabled version of InciWeb that you can use for smartphones, iPads, or tablets. And a couple of new features last year to try out in case you haven't are the filtered table of incidents and the state URLs. It's kind of a guideline to keep approved videos to less than 1 minute in length if you can. There would be some exceptions to that from time to time, of course, but folks looking for information are generally going to have a short attention span for things on the web like this. And something to do just this time of year before activity really increases is to ensure that all your passwords are current and up to date, and that you have access to the NAT portal and your InciWeb account. So and then there's the URL reminder for information about InciWeb and the best practices on the PIO Bulletin Board. So would like to hand it off now to Carrie Bilbao to talk about IROC.
Hey, thank you, Stanton, and thanks everyone for being here today. My name is Carrie Bilbao. I work with the BLM in External Affairs at NIFC as well. And I'm here to talk about the Interagency Resource Ordering Capability System. And it's a product from the Forest Service and Aviation Management Information Technology Branch, or FireNet. And they have been busy improving our technology for reporting and ordering. And IROC is one of those, hopefully, improvements. We're reassured, but as you all know, there are some issues with it, and I'm just gonna briefly talk about that and what you need to do as a PIO for this year and things you should be aware of right now in IROC. We switched from ROS, went off the air March 5th, and started transitioning to IROC on March 10th, and there have been some issues. Initially, the programming group, they were kind of behind from the furlough actually from last year. So they're still trying to play catch up with that, working through some problems. But one of the things that you can do to help and help our dispatchers as well is go into get authorization to self-status yourself. And there's a couple ways to do this. You can go to the FireNet portal, which I have a website up there, and through the IROC application information page, there's various training materials and fact sheets, but there is a website that you can go to that kind of walks you through the process on how to get access to FAM authorization to be able to go in and actually status yourself in IROC. If you do have any issues with it, there is a help desk. They have a number and a website there that I have posted up there. You will need a NAP user account for access as well. It's open for, I think, everyone. I noticed when I went in to authenticate for Forest Service, BLM, and any or DOI users, we have a authentication that you can use your VIP card, your access card, and then there's another application for non-government users of that as well to gain access. So just to look at the differences, so the FAMIT portal and the dashboard are a little different. The portal has all the applications available through the FAMIT branch, and you can see things such as EGP, WFDAs, IROC. It's actually kind of worthwhile to go in there, and if you have any questions on any of those new programs, there's a ton of information on this page. You can click on those and go to training, where you find training. And the FireNet portal is one place that you can go to look for training if you want to go beyond just self-statusing. You can go in here and look. It is offered through the Wildland Fire Learning Portal. But there's also a way that you can, if you do need help, and just within your GAC, there's contact information for people. Ours in the Great Basin is Shep Grimm. He was awesome. I asked him a couple questions the other day. He got back to me right away. So they're available, and just be aware and be patient with working through this program, because it's changing constantly, and they're trying to get it to where we can all use it easily and be more user friendly than ROS. But it is a process they're going through, and it is fully functional. They are ordering right now. I know I just talked to the folks up at NIC, and they are busy getting orders for the Southwest currently, and having issues with the availability because we do not have reports right now. But part of that I wanted to show you on the dashboard, which is on the right-hand side of the screen, is when you go into self-status yourself, you can status yourself right now currently as local, state, GAC, or national. There is no way to kind of look to see if somebody's available virtual. That's what we're seeing right now. People may be able to be available. They don't want to travel, but they could possibly work from home if there is something they could do from home or from another remote location. But IROC currently doesn't have that. I have put in a resource ordering request for that, and have also talked to our rep at the GAC about maybe adding a virtual availability status. So far, I've received some good response on that. So that could be something we could be seeing, which would be nice once we get the availability reports. So just to let you know, when you go into order right now, I have been told that name requesting is probably the best way, because they are having issues with the availability and finding availability. So it's just like ROS. When you go into order, you need to identify your needs in the request. If you know somebody is willing to work virtual, make sure you note that and where they're going to be working virtually. And then note any other special needs in the documentation as you normally would. And then for name requests, make sure you also include their dispatch unit. Just makes it easier for them to find them. And then also check your self-status. And then, like I said, the current issues that programmers are working on. If you go in there, things might be kind of moving around and changing. I know our dispatchers up in NIC were talking about, they're looking for a button up in the right-hand corner and it moved to the left-hand corner or something. So programmers are constantly in there changing things around. So just be patient with that. Everyone's going through it. And just know too, right now we have limited reporting capacity for availability. They have a team working on getting some of those reports ready, hopefully within the next week or so, but we haven't heard status on that. So just need to be patient. Yeah, if there's any other questions, we can talk about that next. I'll turn it over to Sam for questions and open it up.
Thanks, Gary. Here you'll see that we have the contacts for all of the leads for all of the agencies. So feel free to jot those down. I mentioned following us on social media. I've already had a few notifications of new followers. So I think that was a good plug. Looks like we've got 398 folks that were able to join us, which is awesome. Tina, did we have any questions come in the queue?
Yes, we do have several questions that we'll be following up on. And if you do have questions and haven't put them in the question area yet, please go ahead and do so, and we'll just dive right in and focus on these questions. So first one is from Nick, and his question is, are they looking to control COVID messages when not on a federal fire?
I can just kind of answer. I can start answering if I think I understand the question correctly, and then Alex, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, and I have unmuted Nick, so.
Oh, wow, thank you. So it sounds to me as though Nick is asking if we should continue to use federal PIO COVID type messaging, even though you're on, say, like a state managed wildfire. And that is why we did produce those really general COVID type messages in hopes that people can tailor them to their specific situations. So that's where I would start. And also I do think that even though we do have different specific agency missions when it comes to COVID, we are pretty much still conveying the same message. So that's what I would suggest. But Nick, feel free to jump in if I'm not answering you correctly.
No, I think you're on the right path. So thank you for answering that. But I think it also is the check back with the federal on guidance. I think that's the question I would have, because those contacts aren't readily available for who I have, and then my reporting structure is through the state. So it's just a matter of who takes control, and is the federal side going to try to take control of that?
Yeah, I would say it does make sense too. I think, as you said, to kind of check in with the local public affairs people there, even if they are, state public affairs folks. But yeah, I would say most of our messaging is pretty much the same. But of course, if we can ever help, if you are on an incident and you need a little guidance or just any kind of assistance as far as federal messaging versus state, definitely feel free to call any of us, because we would definitely be happy to help.
Yeah, I think that generally answers it. The only other question would be, at that point, when does, you said that, I think it was DOA or DOI, I don't remember which one it was, said that they wanted everything vetted through them before it went out. And that's where I think the rub would be.
I see what you mean there. Yes. So that is also, yeah, why I would suggest coordinating with the local public affairs office. And, this is a good question too, because yeah, I mean, if you're on a state managed fire, you can go through, technically your state chain of command and, go through your state's approval processes, or, whoever you're technically working for within that delegation of authority, and follow their, suggestions and regulations. And overall, and I should have mentioned this in my presentation, speaking candidly, I'm hoping that USDA and DOI lax those rules a little bit, because it's really not going to be feasible if we have numerous large incidents across the landscape for people to have messages approved through department communications offices. And I have noticed they are working with us a little bit, especially if we use approved talking points. So that's where those talking points that we've been posting would also hopefully come in handy. But again, yeah, if we can help with anything like that, of course, please feel free to ping us at any time. It's summer, it's fire activity, so call us on a weekend, anytime. We're working and ready to help.
So we'll move to Stephen's question. What is the requirement, if any, for reporting in news releases on COVID-19 related incidents involving resources that have been impacted?
I can help answer that one as well.
But I can do this if you want.
Oh yeah, Stanton, I was gonna say, if anyone else wants to chime in, I'll try not to ramble, and I'll let anyone else chime in after me. So we actually just were talking about this yesterday, because we had someone request if we had a template for a news release about, a situation where firefighters, or a large number of fire resources have contracted the virus on a specific incident, and how you would handle that public information dissemination. And unfortunately, this is going to be a very incident-specific situation, because, it's really, do you send a news release if you have a couple of firefighters who have contracted it? And then how big is the scale of the effect of them contracting it? Does it mean we're going to have entire crew shut down? Likely in some of those situations, yes. So in that case, it would warrant something like a news release. But again, yeah, this is another situation where we would strongly suggest coordinating with the local forest, the local district, because of course there are HIPAA requirements with announcing something like, a sickness or an injury. Of course we all know that we've had fatalities and other incidents within incidents, but this COVID situation seems to be especially sensitive in that regard. So I would also suggest, in that type of situation, coordinating closely with the local public affairs office. But Stanton, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that, Jessica, that it is going to depend on the jurisdiction, kind of like that first question. It's going to depend on the unit that you're working on and what the situation is there. Folks in wildland fire are especially well suited to changing conditions, and it's been remarkable so far how well I've seen people adapt to this situation this year. The talking points that were mentioned and these kind of protocols that you're discussing now, all this stuff was tiered off of the wildland fire response plans for each GAC, and those came out about 5 weeks ago. Jessica and others have been answering a slew of media questions and in terms of how things are being handled, what's different about this fire season. So yeah, I know we've got other questions to go here too, so I want to leave time for those as well.
Okay, thank you. Back to a question from Nick, and I believe this is related to the FireNet 365 accounts. Can we have the ability for states to appoint a person that can be vetted to approve new accounts?
This is Katie. I'll go ahead and take that one. I think that's going to be up to your individual state. The FireNet team that's taking in those requests assumes that because you've gone through the training and especially since you're a non-federal entity, you have to have that federal sponsor. And that federal sponsor is the one who submits your security training completion certificate. So I think if your individual states want to have an extra person to make sure that those are vetted before being submitted up to the FireNet team, that's going to be on a case-by-case or a state-by-state basis. But the FireNet team is not going to control that.
Okay, thank you. And this question is from Meg. Is IROC mobile enabled?
Hi, Meg, this is Carrie. I'll answer that. Actually, I don't know yet if it is mobile enabled. Inform has those different applications on it. As some of you might know, we also switched to a new reporting system called Inform this year, January 1st, and it does have that capability. I'm not aware right now about IROC because, like I said, they're still working on a lot of the programming issues. But we can let people know if that and when it's available.
Another IROC question. Is IROC self-status available to cooperators and ADs?
So from what I understand, it is. I went into the e-authentication, and there is there's two ways to go in and authenticate yourself for access, and one is through federal government and one is through cooperators. And so I think as long as you are vetted and can get access, because you're requesting access to the system through your dispatcher, through your local dispatchers. So, and that's part of it when you go in to request access for self-statusing, that request goes to your local dispatch unit that's going to be sending you out, and they approve it. So, like I said, there was that. I mean, I would go in and check it, and if it doesn't seem available, I would call the help desk and ask about that. But from what I understand, yes, as long as you're, as long as you're an IQCS and you're available for going out on fire assignments or incidents, I believe you can.
So this next question is from John. Who or what is keeping lists of available virtual PIOs as the season progresses? How is that list disseminated? So I'm not sure what agency John is with, but
Hey, Tina, this is Katie. I can try to take that from a PIO and IMT perspective. So as an IMT member, in my case with Pacific Northwest Team 3, we have an internal list, and we've been reaching out to our contacts, folks that we've worked with in the past, folks that have expressed interest to our team, and gauging that their ability, whether they would like to be virtual or remote, or their ability to come in person. The other thing is that I believe one of the NEMO teams is hosting a twice-a-week webinar, and some of that information has been posted on the social media pages for PIOs on Facebook and stuff, that you could register for those calls, and they're working on within the FireNet team's environment compiling some of that information. So I would highly recommend that if you are able to work virtual, and you have a local IMT or an IMT you've worked with in the past, to reach out to those folks and let them know your availability.
And then meanwhile, we'll go on to a question from Sarah. I was wondering why we aren't including the year in the hashtag fire name hashtag to differentiate from other fires of the same name in different years, such as hashtag quail fire 2020 versus hashtag quail fire.
I can take that one, and Katie might also be able to chime in. This is just based on what people are doing popularity-wise. I think over the last few years, this has become a little bit of a habit to use a fire name as the hashtag. But you're right that people have not been including necessarily a year with that. I don't think there was ever any decision. I think it's just on what the masses did. And so we've been trying to also join in on that. Katie, do you have an IMT perspective on that?
Sam, I think you're right. I think a lot of the work that we would do on trying to identify those would depend on existing hashtags out there as well. So, you know, in my case, if I show up on a fire and I'm responsible for the social media, I'm going to check to see if the local community is already using a hashtag and whether that includes the year or not. And so, you know, you try to leverage existing hashtags if they're already out there, and you try to shy away from ones that may be referencing something that's old or no longer being updated. So I think that's a good question, and I would just, you know, kind of look at what's already existing out there and see what you can build from.
Okay, this next question from Jarrett, and I can respond to it. Will you be sending the PowerPoint out to attendees or making it available for download? So we will be posting the PowerPoint as well as a webinar recording as soon as we can get it captioned up on the PIO Bulletin Board. And so probably anticipate that the PowerPoint slides can be probably posted before the webinar recording, but I anticipate that'll be ready by early next week. So we can send out a notification to all of our registrants that it's available, especially if you missed part of today's webinar or had others who were interested that aren't able to make it. Next question for Marguerite. I'm an AD U.S. Forest Service. I logged into FireNet successfully, but it says I don't have permission to access anything. Do I need to be assigned to a fire before I'll have access to FireNet stuff?
That's a good question. So if you are not currently part of either an IMT or some other group that has an existing team going within Microsoft Teams, I know our terminology here kind of overlaps, but then you wouldn't see anything or wouldn't have access to anything anyway. So as an incident occurs, you have successfully logged in, so you know that you can be added to an incident once that occurs. If you're still having issues with it, I would also recommend reaching out to the FireNet web admin team, and that email address is on their website as well as on the slides.
Can anyone give a summary of lessons learned for the PIO function on fires in the Southwest GAC so far this season? And that question's from Rudy.
So Tina, this is Katie again. I would say that exact topic is being discussed on the PIO call that's being sponsored by the NEMO team, by Chris Erickson's team later this morning. And I believe they're planning on posting some lessons learned as soon as they wrap up from that sawtooth fire. Okay. And I don't know if there are folks from the sawtooth fire on here, either Michelle Fiddler or Brad Patassi, that might be able to answer that question.
So I'm going to unmute Michelle. She is on the webinar.
Hi, this is Michelle. Yes, we're working on compiling some of that. So we will be kind of doing a brief overview on that national PIO call in 10 minutes, and then we'll be following up with some kind of written summary that we'll try to get on the PIO toolbox in Teams in the FireNet folder, and see if we can work with getting it on the NIFC PIO Bulletin Board or lessons learned as applicable. So that's in the works.
Okay. And Michelle, since I have you unmuted, and not to put you on the spot, but we did have a question about the status of the current PIO incident organizer.
So I've had other priorities. So it's a Word document. Feel free to edit it accordingly. It's on the to-do list. So we plan to do it at some point, but we've been focused on kind of the current situation. So there's no update available just yet this year.
Great, thank you. Okay, and this next question is from Kathy. The old Google-based incident FireNet accounts included a YouTube channel. Is there any equivalent video channel for the new FireNet?
So there is not yet. That is a functionality that we're still waiting on approvals from both the USDA and DOI CIOs. But there is still the ability to use YouTube logging in. You can create a separate YouTube account using your FireNet email address, whether it's the shared account address, your fire name at firenet.gov. That is, and thanks for bringing that up, Kathy. That's one of the video products that we're hoping to post soon on the FireNet website, is how to still access YouTube using your Office 365 FireNet account.
Okay, next question is from Holly, and we are down to about 5 minutes, and we know some folks are probably going to drop off for the NEMO call, so we can compile the questions that are still left over and put them out to the group. So we got lots of good questions today. So Holly's question is it still correct that how/what COVID-19 questions that are incident specific do not need clearance? However, quote, why COVID-19 questions that are inherently policy related do need clearance and should be routed to the home unit PAO staff?
This is Stanton Floria with the Forest Service. On our side, that is correct. That if you're being asked on an incident, just what you're doing, basically the things we've all been talking about, you know, not the huge camps, but smaller, more dispersed operations, some positions being virtual, all these different things that we're doing. The incident can speak to that in the course of normal incident information. Any of those why questions, has your agency had difficulty ordering PPE, or why did this agency decide to do this, send those on up to the unit through their public affairs folks.
Next question is from Brian. Can you post ops videos on InciWeb if they are 3 minutes long?
Yeah, this is Stanton again. I can speak to that. I mean, generally, if you're talking about for an external audience, some of the jargon and language that the ops folks may not be opportune. If you were referring to that kind of 1 minute goal for the InciWeb postings, you can do that, but again, it's the audience that you're trying to reach with the message. So you'd want to put it in lay terms for the public, for evacuees, any of those other folks that are out there, for it to be understandable to them. 3 minutes is not too long, though. I don't think anybody's going to lose sleep over that.
Well, Tina, while you're going back to look at questions, I do have a response for the mobile application for IROC. There is not a version yet. I think that's something they're probably looking to work on. Some people, though, have said working on their iPad or tablet through the browser works okay. Not recommended for Android or iPhone, though.
Okay, great. So this next question is from Janet. What resources/methods do you recommend to reach the portion of the public who do not use social media or have access to internet by choice or geographic remoteness? And I'm sure this is obviously in light of, trap lines and COVID-19 gatherings, things like that.
And this is Jessica. I could start, and then, of course, others could chime in. Yeah, this continues to be an issue, right? I mean, we are in an age where everything is so focused on digital communications that, at least I've been hearing, in some cases, certain groups are forgotten about, and those are largely people who don't have high-speed internet access. I mean, there's still a lot of demographics out there that don't have it. So you're right. I mean, we do need to consider these groups and ensure that we still are trying to do old-fashioned things like trap lines. But of course, that's going to be tricky this year because of the pandemic. And again, that's also unfortunately going to be pretty incident and situation specific. but it is definitely something to bring up and to think about, is that we do need to continue to try to reach those demographics and not just focus on digital communications. Of course.
And this is Sam. I'll just quick add to that and say, you know, we from the national offices certainly are always going to encourage all incident PIOs to coordinate with those local units, whether it be the public affairs officer on a district or on a forest. You know, they know how best to reach their local communities. And so our close coordination with them from our day jobs and then your jobs on an incident is pretty important.
So this question from Paul: has there been an effort to identify IO jobs that can be done from home? There is a large cadre of ADIOs who are in the COVID vulnerable category.
I think that touches on what Katie was sharing earlier about the efforts of the NEMO team, and they're trying to consolidate a list of virtual or folks that are interested in virtual opportunities. So probably likely more to come on that, but from an agency perspective, I know that we don't necessarily have a list of those virtual IO individuals.
Yeah, this is Stanton. If you're ordered up for a fire as a PIO and you're offering to work virtually, there are things that can be done virtually, like trap lines, where we're emailing the information to each business or stop in the community for them to print their own information or to share that with people that they come into contact with. As we went through each of those, there are a number of things within the PIO function that can be virtualized, although I'm also not aware of a formal list of that separate from just the normal ordering system.
Sam, this is Jennifer. I was going to say that, yeah, as one of the PIOs for the Great Basin team, we've done that. We've kind of put a list of things that could be virtual versus things that we need to do on site. And so we've also kind of established those roles and responsibilities within our team. And I think other teams have done the same thing of what can be virtual, what can be done on site. So when our team does get ordered, we can get those established and then order accordingly as well. So I think teams are doing it internally and there's nothing formal.
Well, I have got 11 o'clock on my clock and I want to be sure and be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much for all of you that were able to join us. Like Tina said, we'll be able to provide not only the recording, but the slides on the PIO Bulletin Board. And I'll just end with one final plug that there's no secret that there are a lot of resources out there that you all are working on. And if you have anything that you feel like would be an added value to that PIO Bulletin Board, we are constantly adding and updating that. We're also in the process of a NIFC.gov redesign, which is very exciting. We're a little ways out from that, but we want to certainly stockpile those good resources when the time comes. So thank you everyone for being with us, and don't hesitate to reach out with questions.